Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you're at. Of course, we got a wide variety of people here again for our event today. So, another one in our series of our 2021 webinar series for International Models of Emergency Management. And today we're talking with our colleagues from France to learn more about their system, their structures, and how they operate in terms of emergency and disaster management and building more resilient societies. And so, again, just like always, welcome again to our series. We see a lot of you who have joined us from previous webinars and things like that. It's really great to see you again and great to have you join us during the series. And as you know, and as I have mentioned previously, we're at about 36 nations that are now registered in this program, and the list continues to grow. Again, as far as administrative points with the webinar, as you know already, because you've probably been with us in the past, is that the Q&A is a great feature. Just use the Q&A if you have any specific questions during the presentations, and we'll get to those after the presentations themselves, and we'll try and summarize a lot of those questions and roll them up. Sometimes we get 20 or 30 questions, and we can't get through all of them at one time. So if there's any specific question also that you want to get to that we didn't have a chance, or that you want to answer, you still want to answer after the webinar, and we didn't get a chance to ask it, go ahead and go into the LinkedIn group that we have for this event series, and you'll be able to post your question in there, and then we will, of course, get our guest speakers to provide an answer for that. And again, with our survey, many of you have already filled out the survey. Thank you very much for that. It's going to open up again after this event is over. If you could please let us know your thoughts and your opinions, as well as give us some feedback on what you'd like to see from the rest of the series going through the rest of this year. And if there's any specific topics that you'd like for us to discuss, it's going to help us shape future webinars and really address the needs of this growing community. So just really quick, again, we do have a LinkedIn event. It's been one of the things that we have found to be the most effective way in terms of being able to at least share some information, share slides, share video links and things like that to a group of people. And so you'll get notifications. If you haven't joined that already, please do so. Join the 240 plus other individuals that are already in that group. Ask questions, post materials and references and recordings. And you'll get, when we do make a new announcement, you'll see a notification for your LinkedIn is going to be there as well. And we use that instead of sending just a lot of emails to everybody. So we find that to be somewhat helpful, even though it's a little bit strange because it's an event for the entire year. We're not using it exactly as what it's engineered to be, but it works for this purpose, and it helps tremendously. So again, future webinars, we've already had Finland. Today is France. So we've got Australia coming up, and you'll see a couple asterisks there, and I'll explain why in just a second. Then we have United Kingdom, Germany, and we're going to have a future of emergency management discussion with the University of Manchester coming up around the September-October timeframe. And that's going to be a different format. We'll have some panelists, and we're going to talk about the various topics that are coming up in emergency management, what we've learned as we get through the pandemic, and we're starting to see the end of that, hopefully. And with all the changes and things like that we've learned from the pandemic, and what holds the future for us as we move through this sort of career field, and especially with how we're dealing with our communities, our nations, and our structures. But as you saw with the asterisk there with Australia, it's just because the time zone. Time zone is going to be a big thing with the Australian presentation, because of the fact that they are, the time zones are so drastically different. So you'll find that you may not be awake, or it's going to be later in the evening, or whatever the case is for when the webinar is occurring. Go ahead and still register for the webinar. You'll get a link via email anyway for the recorded session, and you'll be able to watch it then. And we will also be posting that to the YouTube channel as well. And again, just as quick introductions, and I'll allow our guest speakers today to introduce themselves. But again, my name is Kyle King. I'm the Managing Director of Capacity Building International, and again, joined by Harold Drager, President of Teams. And right now, I'll just hand it over to you, Harold, in case you have any opening remarks.
Yeah, not much today. Hello, everybody. I'm just excited, as you are, hopefully, hear more about France. But I'd just like to mention that both Christian Sommade and Paul Monet, they are the hosts of Teams annual conference this year, which will take place the week 6th to 10th December. There are some issues we need to know how it's go with the COVID, but we plan that it should be physical in Paris, but with also recordings. But if we cannot, we will do a virtual like what they did last year in France as well. So if you also have questions to Christian and Jean-Paul concerning the annual conference, please do. And with that, I turn over to you again, Kyle, to start the webinar.
All right. So what we'll do right now is just hand it over to Christiane and Jean-Paul.
Yes, I have a super presentation, but the topic is not the exactly the same one that the Jean-Paul, because Jean-Paul is going to introduce to you the French system of emergency crisis management, and I think he's in the best position, as you know, he's the senior officer of one of the fire department in France, which is the most busy in Marseille area. And he's also a specialist in wildfire, which is one of the big topics of the south of France issue for firefighters. And also he has a very good experience in this kind of command systems which we use. So yeah, I can introduce myself first. I'm the head of the Resilience France. Resilience France is an NGO which is existing for more than 38 years now in France. It was calling before the High Committee for Civil Defense. It has been created by the French Senate and is gathering people from the industries, the large companies, is gathering people from the administration, the French administration, the ministries, local community as well, fire department, anyone who are interested in this field of emergency crisis management and more globally on resilience. Before to introduce the things that can interest, I think, the people from Tiems, I just would like to introduce what we do in this association. First, we have a kind of think tank activities. We work. We have a weekly meeting, which is usually a breakfast in the French Senate in a good restaurant, and we do that for the last 20 years. Unfortunately, with the COVID, we have done that through the web, like everyone, for the last year. But we start again in June, so the next one will be a real one. That's what's not happening for more than a year, for 14 months. But we have still continued these activities. We have also another webinar, which is a more technical one every month as well. And we have two conferences a year, roughly. One is more frequently on experience. I mean, on the lesson learned of a situation, of a crisis situation, and the other one is more technical. That's the first part. It's like a think tank. The second part is that we deliver certification for France. For people who wants to be in emergency crisis room. So it's quite a new activity for us. We started that a year ago only, and we have 3 levels for certification of people for emergency crisis management. And we have for a much longer time of that, for 10 years, another certification for resident city. And we have started that 10 years ago, and we have now 60 cities in all over France, which are with this label called Resident City. And we launch in the coming weeks a same label for companies, which is based on mix of ISO 31000 and other ISO on emergency or business continuity or emergency management. But the issue is that we think that the ISO standards is more a management organization that really a certification or a certification in progress. And so we wanted to make something lighter, lower cost for companies, and that's what we have done, and we are going to launch that and the last one that I would like to introduce now is our daily work that we do for all our members. We have roughly 70 organization which are members. We have 7 people working full time, and we are producing every day a survey, not a survey, a monitoring of media on all threats, risk, hazards, and crisis situation or emergency situations. And we have one in French for France, and we have one international in English. And I would like to introduce that to you now. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so I hope that you see this screen. Of course, it's in French. That's our platform, and you see all the topics that we are looking for, and we are going to look that in English, so it will be more convenient for you. What we call international media monitoring, and we have different things: statistics, top news of the week, daily top news, natural hazard. After it's the organization is done by natural hazards, public health, hazmat, cyber, homeland security. I think our pictures should be a little bit updated. Terrorism, cyber, defense and security industries, crisis and conflict and humanitarian issue, economy related to crisis, and resilience, which is a more on long term. So what you can find, so maybe we can, I've preloaded a couple of pages in order to go faster. The one is what we call the statistic. In fact, here you have the statistic, and you see the country where we have different news on Europe right now. And so you see Russia, you see United Kingdom, Greece, Spain, and it changes every week. In Asia, system in America, and in Africa and Middle East. And there is news by country, by typology of risk, what we are talking about in the different regions. So you see here it's conflict and crisis humanitarian for Middle East. Same for Africa also. Coronavirus in Asia. That the most I would say the most number of articles that you will find. So so you can, if you look to something special, you can either country, either topics in a part of the world, you can find it very easily through statistics. After, I can show you the concept that the daily top news. So you heard maybe about the plan diversion of the plan activists. So you have the title, and here you have the article. So you get the article, and the article is not in the scene like you could see on the I would say on the website, but you can have a look on the website, the source website. But the text is put it in, and it's stored in our database, meaning that for the last 10 years we have hundreds of thousands of articles. And I would show you after, because you can have look for looking, because every word is markup. So you are able to search in a Elastic Search database very quickly any article of any subject, and that is interesting. So you can look at it, you can read it, and you have also, we'll speak about that later. So you have the Europe, you have the MENA, Middle East, North Africa, you have Africa, you have Latin America, you have North America, and you have also a couple of iframe. That the Echo Daily Flash. The Echo Daily Flash is like the FEMA daily operation briefing. So you can find it almost every day, because when we are on a weekend like this one, today is the day off in France, we just do the minimum, and it's changed almost. And after, you have a lot of, in all our pages, you have a lot of reviews of documents that you can download if you are interested in. And I will not show you today because but we have a specific other database for PDF. We have thousands and thousands of PDF, which are all scanned, and you can search by name, by title, by any words in the PDF, and you can find. And it's a very interesting system, because you can find a really interesting way. So that's the daily top news. But as you can see, you have we can take, for instance, hazmat up, and you can also create your own platform. So if you want to follow a couple of things like hazmat, I can follow it, and I will have it in my special dashboard, I would say. Well, not today. Maybe we don't have enough data link, because I'm in the countryside, and the data link is not very efficient today. I try to open hazmat, for instance. In the meantime, maybe I can show you another one that I have open, but no, I think it's. In the meantime, I can come back on all the issue that you get, natural hazards, cyber, terrorism, cyber, and that. And we have also in French, of course, all the same kind of articles everywhere. Alors, something which is interesting is that when you are on the top here, you can search any words. So, for instance, if we look to a word, any kind of things, I don't know, when we say when we take, for instance, hurricane is looking for, but you have so many probably, but you have a hurricane match with Hurricane Zeta in October, but you should have a lot of more. I have some issue for connecting to the platform because the bandwidth after left after the Zoom is very small, and it's hard for me to open. I did it before for some pages, but it's hard. But what is interesting also is that you have in this international monitoring, when you select the topic of interest that you may have, you receive every day a newsletters every day in your mailbox with all the articles of the topics, all the multiple topics everywhere. So it could be by country, it could be by type of accident, it could be by any things, any kind of event. So you can match, and we deliver that. But I'm sorry, the internet is a little bit short for us today. And I'm not in the office today because, as I explained, it's a day off. So I'm home, and it doesn't seem to work very well.
Christian, if I can, there was already one question, which is how can we gain access
Sure.
to the what is the website?
The website is coming. In fact, is coming through a system which where we have different website through one which is called Your Crisis Room. And through Your Crisis Room, you access to that and to other as well, because we have other services like we have a dashboard that you can follow up in real-time events, because you can have a Twitter feed, you can have a map, you can have an iframe, you can have a video from news and so on, and you can create yourself the dashboard you like. And that is another service, and every come under your crisis room. But I was trying to connect. I connect direct to the service because again, it's hard.
Okay, so I shared the website that's inside the chat. If anybody's interested in going to the website to look at more information.
The website to see is this one, is the iCommittee htfdc.org. After all the other access is for members only, of course, and it's unfortunately we need to not to make a lot of money, but to make a little bit of money with this service for the members. Either you are members, either you pay. So it's roughly 500 euros a year to access this system, which is updated every day, 7 days a week. On the weekend, it's a smaller work than on the day, but on a weekday, but it works quite well, and we have a tremendous aspect of data in this. The issue is that we don't have enough bandwidth to show you everything in all the way. I have only 10 megabyte bandwidth, and it's not enough to show everything today with the system. So that's mainly what I want to show you. If you have some people more interested, I will be able to organize a specific webinar on that and to go in more details if the people are interested. But it's a quite. You may have also the interface in English. That is also customizable, so you can have we can give you the system, and you have what we call MySpace, and you check what you are interested in, and and you see what you want to see. That's another view, which is in French, but that show you a little bit the interface, the type of interface that we have, and people our members are quite happy with that, because when they are looking something on an event, even a long time after, or if they are looking to all the new reports coming from think tanks, coming from government, coming from international institution, they can find in one place, and that is quite convenient for them for monitoring situations or looking to an issue and so on. So that's quite good for that. I'm going to stop sharing, and if you have any question.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple of quick questions which we can
Sure.
try and answer before we get over back to Jean-Paul. So through your platform, do you have all the documents relevant to climate change and natural disaster resilience for the region? It's only in the specific region of France or Europe, or is it fully international?
No, we have two platforms. One is for France only, and limitrof countries, and the other one is international. And the international one cover all the big events all over the world, and all over the world. And we try to pick up in the different countries, like I show you the FEMA report or the ECO report in Europe, and we try to cover all the GEDAX, everything in one place. The idea is that instead to have 100 of websites to look after, they have one which cover 90% of the needs, and our members like that because they can follow very quickly, and they receive a push every day in their mailbox for that.
Interesting. And does that cover GIS information as well, or is it simply like sort of the analytical?
We have GIS issue for France. We have a report in GIS. I can show you, for instance, maybe something which is interesting. If it works, yeah, this one. Voilà. You will see how that is in French, but we do analysis on different subjects. Up to now, we did it in French. But it can be subject, the crisis of Suez Canal, how it's happened, details with GIS analysis. One on the cyber attack on the nuclear site in Iran, and we have a scale of gravity with, and we put GIS inside, and we have also all our issues on COVID, because we work a lot on COVID. So I don't know if we can have here. Yeah, COVID. Yeah, I'm going to see. Maybe I have more. That the COVID. That all the website on COVID. The report, the key numbers, but we have also some notes, and we have maybe I cannot show you that right now, but we have also some infographic 3 times a week on COVID situation in France and in the world. So we do that for more than 1 year now. It's a big deal, because that's help to follow up situation with the same numbers and everything. So it's we have 4 people working full time on this platform, on both platform, international and national. So that's what mainly we do.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so Jean-Paul, I'll go ahead and share your presentation, and we'll get started. Hopefully our connection survives with us.
So what I said about crisis management is that we are striving for crisis avoidance. So I will present you the French organization from down to top, and including the command and control system used in civil protection until interagency practice, which is kind of crisis management, of course. So let's go to the next slide. We are fully integrated in the European civil protection mechanism with a very centric organization with national headquarters and a crisis room in Paris, of course. But what is more unusual is that we have zonal headquarters. We will see that in a departmental organization. In France we have 100 departments, and at the ground we have the municipalities, of course. 36,000 municipalities in France, which are by the French law responsible for safety. So we will see it a little bit in details, but in 20 minutes I cannot do miracles. It's a large topic, and I will give you very rough informations to be precise if necessary by your questions, or if you want to have some specific focus. I can come back to TBI webinars to give information. So the next slides gives a little bit more explanation. So at the national level, you have many crisis rooms. You imagine everywhere in the world, everybody want to have his crisis room, but who is really involved? It's the National Crisis Room called CIC, which is based in the basement of the Home Ministry, and which is the National Crisis Room. You have a picture of this crisis room, and in France, national regulations imply that the big boss is the Prime Minister when there is a crisis. So we also have to be mentioned the Civil Protection Headquarters, which is a crisis room, which is every time in duty at the opposite of the National Crisis Room, which needs to be activated. So the Home Ministry and the Civil Protection Headquarters have a permanent survey, and they play the role of an interagency crisis room until the National Crisis Room is activated. And of course, we can find other crisis rooms in other ministries, especially health or industry. But in the French laws, there are not invested of power. So the next slide go a little bit in the region at the zonal headquarters. So we divided France in 9 zones, and you can feel that there is a lack of some here because we have 2 zones overseas, one in Indian Ocean and one in Caribbean. So of course they are a national body in the zone, and they are doing some tasks, very important tasks, which is some preparedness, of course. So it's emergency planning for mainly is preparing on terrorist point of view, mass casualties, and also chemical hazards. So they prepare many plans, and also they manage the resources in the day-to-day business. It means if I am in a departmental fire department, if I have a big fire and I need some reinforcement, I have to ask to the zonal headquarters. And the zonal headquarters will provide me helicopters, aircrafts if I need, or maybe other strike teams coming from other departments or from national supply. So that's the key point. Zonal headquarters are key players in the organization, which is not yet crisis. For example, it's only big incident needing reinforcement or assistance from others, and they manage to deal with that. And also, if they need some resources outside the zones, they refer to the headquarters, the national headquarters, maybe to have some strike teams coming from the north of France, in the south, if we have a very bad Wi-Fi season, for example. And if there is a hurricane on the west coast, of course, there is all the procedures are done to build some teams and some heavy teams. I mean, 60 or 100% to give assistance on the west coast for the hurricane coming maybe from Lyon in the middle of the country. So everything is usually managed. It's not exceptional that we have this kind of transfer of forces to reinforce. I have to add that we also have some military troops. We have 2 regiments in France who don't have any territorial assignment, and they also play the role of reinforcement troops at the first row. If you need maybe, let's say, a CBRN team in addition, or a wildfire column, they can provide it quickly, and they are in this position to do that, and also to do international resources. Okay, good. So at the departmental level, I remind you that we have 100 departments, so it's a very small administrative territory with, for example, my department is 2 million inhabitants around Marseille. So the prefect is a high-ranked, nominated civil servant. So he's the state representative in the department, and he's also in charge of being the strategic boss. Is in charge of authority if there is a civil protection issue. So he has, of course, a departmental crisis room, and which has to be activated. And of course, it's the same mechanism. The fire department has permanent headquarters day and night. So before the departmental crisis room is activated, the fire department crisis room headquarters plays the role of an intelligence and alerting headquarters. And I will give you some example, but in France we have 3% in charge of authority to be the strategic boss over the incident commander. So at the national level, if the crisis is national, it's the prime minister. It's the reason why the prime minister is quite always speaking about COVID crisis rather than the president. If you have an inter-municipality crisis or something which can be on one municipality but very important, implying, for example, an emergency plan deployment, the prefect is the second strategic level in the middle, over the mayor, and of course reporting to the national level. The zonal level has no power of what we call direction of operation. It's a strategical level. They only coordinate. But at the department level, we have this civil servant, which is very important because he's responsible to represent the states and to coordinate the crisis between the several agencies involved. So let's go further, Kyle, if you want, because the time is coming very quickly. We have a problem of view. Sorry for that. It's a format of PPT, I guess. So how do we proceed? I say we because, you know, I am a fire officer. How do we proceed every day when we have a big incident? We have an incident command post on site and an incident commander. The incident commander is in charge of the coordination of the usual agency involved, I mean police, hospital, for example. And we have a standardized command and control system, which is named GOC, GOC, and is taught all over the territory by the sole fireman officer school. And this incident commander is also in charge of reporting in evidence to his headquarters. And the headquarters I mentioned previously report to the prefect and to the national level. And if the crisis or the incident justifies the first strategic leader, which is the mayor, will be replaced by the prefect. So I can answer to many questions, but I want to give these very raw informations to explain how it switched progressively from the first incident commander to coordination of agency. Then, if it's very big, implying, for example, starting of emergency planning, there will be an interagency coordination, managed by the incident commander, but directly under the order of the prefect. So I try to be clear, but I will answer to your question, of course. So how do we organize our command system? It's very generic and very close to international system. The incident commander has an incident command post, and in this incident command post, there are several officials working in several functions. We have a safety officer. The function in the incident post are very similar to American system. It's operation, it's resources, it's anticipation, it's planning, let's say, and we don't have any administrative and financial function yet. And we have an intelligence function as in Australia. So it's a little bit in the middle. And we have usually 4 or 3 sectors because we respect a span of command of 3-4% in each position of the incident management team. So usually we have 3 ground sectors and, if needed, an aerial sector to coordinate the aircraft used in the operation. To teach the French system of command and control, we have 5 levels of instruction. The first 2 levels are dedicated to soldiers and sub-officers, and level 3, 4, and 5 are dedicated to officers. Of course, with several levels. Level 3 is group leader; it's 20% to be commanded. Level 4 is column leader; it's at least 60%. I tried to find the word to column. Column is not nonsense. It's 3 groups. It's 3 sections. I don't remember the English word to evocate it. And the level 5 is what we call incident command, the top level. They can command thousands of persons. So it looks like a little bit to American system with the level 4, 3, 2, 1 of the ICS. So I don't want to be too long again. Let's go further, Kai, to conclude and to show some very quick study cases. So at the national, as I said, the national guidance implies that the mayor at the first level, then the prefect, are the local emergency management authority. Then it implies several crisis room activation and the on-site field command post I evocated. So let's go further. I wanted to illustrate by 2 cases, but it will be very, very quick, sorry. So if we have a big wildfire, for example, at first we involve departmental resources. My fire department is a departmental fire department, as everywhere in France. There is no municipal fire department outside Marseille and Paris, 2 cities. So afterwards, very quickly, there is the commitment of the zonal headquarters because we need aircrafts and helicopters. and afterwards there is a national report and maybe arbitration if there is many fires. So if I ask for 10 aircrafts, maybe I will have only 5 because there is an arbitration regarding the importance of my incident. And of course, if needed, we can have additional resources coming from other regions of France by the authorization of the national headquarters, and why not the activation of the European Civil Protection Mechanism in asking assistance to Brussels. The next case is a little bit different. Thanks, guys, to show the next. The next is already existing case of a train accident on the borders between Luxembourg and France. And in this case, we apply one of the bilateral agreements. We have 160 bilateral agreements between peripheral countries. And of course, there is an involvement of both resources and forces, and of course, dual reporting. And the big question is, of course, what is the level of interoperability? How efficient are we? And for that, we practice many trainings, and we give the lead to the country where the incident is. That's interesting to know that if it's in Germany, we provide resources to German commanders, and in the opposite, if it's in France, Germany or Luxembourg provides its trucks or material to the incident commander in charge of. So that was a real case, and we have also some tunnels, some borders with Italy for wildfires, with a small hi to Sergio. But we have to work very much, and there is many training, and also with the European help on that. So the next, probably in last slide. So if I have to be very short in conclusion, you see that French system is a very centralized system. It's not a federal system, so that is sometimes very valuable, sometimes giving constraints. But what is interesting is that the command and control system is totally harmonized at national level. So I can work with a lieutenant of Lille without problem. He can be in my incident command post tomorrow without any difficulties of integration. And what is also interesting in this whole country, to probably his military history, there is a strong unity of command, and there is a good differentiation between the incident commander, which is the operational manager who decided for the citizen. So that's a core principle of our civil protection in France. Thank you, everybody, and sorry for the bad quality of my voice, probably of my connection.
All right, thank you very much, Jean-Paul. And what I will do is we've got a few questions for you, so I'm just going to go right back to maybe starting here on this slide. And I know Christian has also some information on that as well. But could you elaborate on the specific national legislation which specifies the composition of your national crisis room?
You want some precision about the national legislation, if I well understand, that is?
Right. So on what specific national legislation specifies the composition of the national crisis room? And also Christian can
I can jump in this one. In fact, the national is something which is set up on purpose regarding the type of crisis. In fact, you have different ministries coming coming around, which are represented, but also can be also some specific critical infrastructure operators. And the minister, which is leader, is different. We have two types of organization. One, when the crisis is called structural, meaning that it's is around one topic specially, and the minister of, could be a leader. It would be a technical ministry like health or like environment, energy or finance or whatever. And if the crisis is much more extended, it will be the prime minister, or it will be the Ministry of Interior if the crisis is all over the or is regarding the territories. It can be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for instance, if the crisis is regarding foreign French citizens outside the country. So it's very on purpose, I would say. But usually you have all the ministries involved all the ministries involved at the higher level around the table. And this is not the CIC is not permanent organization. It's just set up when a crisis occurs. But you have a monitoring with a COGIC, which is a monitoring situation, and that is mainly for civil protection issues. But you have other monitoring for police and gendarmerie or intelligence and so on, which are covering. And when a big crisis occurs, the prime minister or the minister of interior is going to or the president can ask for the national crisis room to be set up.
Okay, thank you for that.
Clear enough?
Yes, that was clear. Thank you for that. So staying at the national level, and this is a question either for Christian or Jean-Paul, how do you balance France's civil protection resources with the needs and the requests from other EU and neighboring countries, especially with regards to, for example, aerial
Jean-Paul,
that's a little bit, it's a very good question. European civil mechanism is based on a civil protection pool of modules. Modules are some strike teams, standardized strike teams. But the mechanism by itself is organized to ask when there is a request of assistance, the headquarters ERCC is spreading this request of assistance to each participant states. It's 32 states, a little bit extended, the union a little bit extended. And the states answered with proposal of modules. It means that there is no balance. If, for example, at the same time, you don't propose or you propose not so much material. So it's not a choice by the country, it's a choice by the affected country who choose the modules, the future incoming modules to reinforce itself. So if, for example, there is a big catastrophic flood in Germany, and we have in the north of France the same, and they ask for reinforcement, we will propose probably only one module, and the other countries will do the job. That's difficult to speak about this balance, because it's a tricky point, which is taken in account by European Commission, because the availability and the availability of the module is not guaranteed all the time.
Okay, thank you for that.
I also have a question about interzonal operation. I saw when there is an operation between zones, a departmental prefect is involved. One interdepartmental prefect is involved to be the strategic leader. It's not the zonal person who have. It's a little bit surprising. It could have been a zonal prefect designated to do that. No, it's departmental prefect who is nominated by Paris to be the strategic leader.
Okay, I think that answers that question. Let's see. We have two people raising their hands. So if you're in the chat, if you're raising your hand, Christopher or Dominique, let's, if you want to write your question, or you can be allowed to speak. It'd be up to you. I think we'll just take two more questions and we'll be finished.
Oh, there is a question about community knowledge on disaster reduction and community preparedness. That's a very good question. With Christian, I will give him the floor because Christian is one of the main French actors of spreading the knowledge of safety in France, and we all feel that it's always not enough, of course, and mainly we try to have a national information on crisis and on risk, and provide at least as this virtue to demonstrate it is possible, because in France now we have 70 million of epidemiologists. Everybody has an opinion on the crisis. But for a more usual risk, it's very difficult in south of France. To give an example, for forest fire, we strive. It's always very difficult to convince people that they have to clear around the houses. It's very simple, but they don't understand that, especially in Latin zone where people are not so prompt, so rapid to obey. It's very difficult. So, Christian, how to manage with the municipality?
Yes. Yeah. No, first of all, I think it's good to remember that in France, all the rescue forces, meaning police, gendarmerie, depends the location, and fire, are belong the department or the national. And the mayor has he has some power in this field of police, because you have now some local police, but it's many administrative police. It's not a law enforcement agency. And in this police, he has to prepare his citizens for disasters and disaster risk reduction, because he has some commitment in this field. When a crisis occurs, as Jean-Paul said, the prefect is most often the one who is going to be the leader in the crisis response. But the mayor has always an obligation. What we call, in one hand, it's security, and in one hand is a kind of local response to support population. He has in charge by law the warning, the alarm system of the population for the time being. Probably in the future it will be a cell broadcast in the next 2 years, but today, when a crisis occurs, the prefect is going to warn the mayor, and the mayor must warn its population. So he must have some sirens, some any kind of systems he wants, but he has the responsibility to warn. He has also the responsibility of all the preparedness plan for feeding, housing the population, sheltering the population. That is really the task of the mayor, and for that he has a plan. He has a plan we call a Sauvegarde plan, and it's a kind of crisis plan for the municipality. And in this crisis plan, he has the function of communication, and for that he has a specific document that he must give to all the population, with the information document on the risk regarding his municipalities. What are the risks on the municipalities? What to do with that, and so on. So he has some obligation. Unfortunately, we could say that only maybe 30 to 50, 60% of the municipalities are playing the game, more or less. And 30, 40% are not doing a lot. And so there is a new law which is under discussion right now, which is going to go on the National Assembly within the next 2 months, to improve the global systems for the cities to be better prepared. Because what COVID has shown is that, in fact, the mayor and the cities have been very important for instance, for the test, for the vaccination, and so on. And the state has recognized that nothing is not strong enough. The system for the community is not strong enough, so they want to improve that. So we hope that it will be better for years for the coming years. But as Jean-Paul said, it's hard in France because the French population, you have a large part of it which doesn't care and waiting for something but not taking their part of the job. So it's not so easy, and it's really I would say a societal issue to convince people to be better prepared. Well, that's what I want to say.
Okay.
So,
All
Kyle,
right.
I see a question of Mr. and Mrs. Viraj Diaz about the comparison of COVID pandemic crisis and other ones. And I give just a piece of answer. We dealt with COVID-19 with the same mechanism, but the criticism of the beginning of the crisis was that it was not a top level managed crisis at the beginning by the Prime Minister, but only by the Ministry of the Health. And some criticism in France says that it should have been earlier identified of a national crisis to be managed by the Prime Minister rather than staying as a structural and technical crisis managed by one ministry. So it's one of the weaknesses of the system, which has been demonstrated by the last crisis. But yes, we manage at the same a pandemic and a flood and so on. I will answer to Larry Porter if I can in return.
Sure.
Yeah, if I can add one thing, I just and Jean-Paul said, I think the starting of the crisis has been managed by the Ministry of Health, and it has been a medical crisis management and not a global crisis management. And that has been very much criticized, and with good reasons, because a lot of mistakes have been done at the beginning of the crisis for the first 3-4 months. And the second point is that we don't have the ICS system with all the emergency super functions. And when we go in very large crisis, which is a systemic one, which is covering all the societies and so on, if you don't have a strong, very strong and very, very, I would say, efficient command and control systems, you are weak. And we have seen that in the Ministry of Health, they were not ready. They were not ready to handle all that stuff. And the regional part of the Ministry of Health was absolutely not ready to handle all the issue of mass distribution, respirators, whatever, and they have been very criticized for that with good reasons. After, of course, when you put the mechanism in place and you take time and you put so many resources, you reach the goals, but you reach the goal late and very costly. And it's what's happened in the French system. It has been very costly, very, very not very efficient, and very long to stand up. But I think it was a little bit the same in many countries as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's. I think we all had a growing process, in the last year or so. So I think there's nothing really sort of surprising about that. So there was one question about the training in the field of professional development. So training and education in the field of emergency management, specifically in France. If somebody were to get into the field of emergency management in France, what does that look like in terms of training and education requirements and career path?
I can say a word, and maybe Jean-Paul will tell us. I think that if you are firefighters, if you are a policeman or a gendarme, it's not a problem because it's in your cursus, if you see what I mean. If you are a civil servant, it starts to be poor. The Prime Minister Department organizes some course, but there is no certification up to now. there is no deep elements. But on the side, we have a couple of universities which have developed master in emergency management. But again, I think it's can be better, and you have some private company which deliver courses in this field. The issue is that most of the people are trained in their companies when they are working in this field in their company. They are training their companies, they do courses outside a little bit, but then there is not a unique national management system for that, except, as I said before, for the firefighters, for the EMS, for the gendarmerie and police. There they have real training. So a lot of progress still to be made.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Now, a couple of people in the chat have been raising their hands and I guess have a question. So, Christopher, I'm going to allow you to talk. If you do have a question, we'll give you a couple of seconds just to see if you're still there.
Kyle, in between, we have a question about logistics.
Okay,
from
go ahead.
Jaroslav Pikoch, which is a friend of us. Of course, when we enter in a big operation or a crisis it's by itself, logistics is a key issue. And of course, we have state forces for the logistics, but sure that we need to use private companies because, for example, for vaccination, it was impossible for the army, for example, to do the whole logistic of the vaccine. So it's a mixed system. At first, of course, national one, especially for very sensitive issues. And of course, we use private sector if needed.
Okay,
and
thanks for the answer on that.
May I answer to... Vas-y, Christian.
No, I just wanted to tell that for the critical infrastructure, there is a specific legislation that we call vital operators. And we have roughly a few hundred of vital operators in France, ranging from energy, transport, and so on. And those must have a security plan as well as a business continuity plan. And that the heart of the systems that the government relies on for continuing delivery the essential services to the population. So that can include, for instance, supermarket like Walmart in France. We don't have Walmart, but you see what I mean. all the big distribution channels. So you have many companies which are coming into this legislation to support the government for delivering in kind of crisis the basic needs of the population.
Okay, and let's see, just a couple more questions because we're running a bit long here. But so from Christopher, so what organizations in Asia do you have any type of harmonization of with regards to certification, for example? Because you had mentioned, for example, 160. You had mentioned, for example, there's 160 bilateral agreements previously in your presentation. Yep. Are any of those based out of Asia, or are there any sort of bilateral agreements or recognition with other entities in Asia?
No, it's when I speak about bilateral agreement, it's cross-border agreement. So it's for the cities, for the countries around France, and with other countries outside the Union, we are under the international treaties, and international treaties is UN, which is the manager of the request of assistance. So what does it mean? That if there is a request of assistance in Nepal, for example, in Geneva, UN headquarters forward this request of assistance to Brussels ERCC headquarters, and Brussels answers as a single country to this request of assistance, building reinforcement detachment with participant states' resources. So it's not at all a certification, it's an harmonization in the UN, United Nations mechanism. That's an international treaty. So we respectfully these treaties. And I see another question from Giacomo.
Maybe if I can
about the unification of European C2S. Yes.
No, I was saying that also France have some bilateral agreement with different countries on civil protection, because the Ministry of Interior in France signed this kind of agreement, and we have in many embassies in all over the world some civil protection attaché, where they are building some cooperation between the countries and France on civil protection issues. So that exists also, which is different than what Jean-Paul explained, which is Jean-Paul explained is the official response to disaster. But on civil protection agreement, there are some bilateral agreement with different countries. I know, for instance, that you have one between Indonesia and France, between Spain and France, between you have many countries. I cannot tell all, but many in Africa as well. So you have some bilateral, but also now more and more is going through programs which are carried out by the EU as well.
Yeah, yes, true, but it's preparedness agreements, yes. Yeah. So to answer to Giacomo Piron about harmonization, starting from French model, my idea is that yes, Europe need a C2S system, but not based on the French model. We have to build something hybrid based on the general comparison of all of the world system, and to better respond to the European history with a lot of small countries with heavy history issues. And also the idea is, if we build this harmonized European system, which is really needed, because for example, if I go in Greece to give to command reinforcement battalion, I have to know what is the command system in Greece. So what is interesting would be to have this kind of command system, and also this command system to be developed. It is weighted by the responders. This system has to be fully interoperable with American incident command system, because for wildfire, we saw that in Australia it's very relevant, and also to be fully integratable in UN operation, because UN is in charge of international aid. So we have to solve this problem because it's important. It's important to have a kind of common referential for responders in Europe.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We did go a little bit long, but it was, I think, worth it to answer some of these questions. We had a lot of questions today. And thanks for sticking with us through our technical challenges today. We'll get the video of this up and posted so that you can review that when you have time, in case that you missed it or anything else. So again, that's it. Thank you, Jean-Paul. Thank you, Christian, and have a great day.